Welcome back in Live Now from Fox. I'm Austin Westfall. Let's cover the Supreme Court. It has been a busy few weeks for the court. Lots of decisions coming down just before they wrap up their session before summer break. We've heard decisions on guns, abortion rights, social media, but perhaps the most eagerly awaited decision has not come down yet. We're talking, of course, about former President Trump's immunity case. At issue specifically is special counsel Jack Smith's prosecution of Trump on charges to overturn his election loss to Joe Biden in 2020. We expect a decision on Monday, so let's talk about it more with attorney and constitutional law expert Robert McWhirter. As always, Robert, it's good to see you. Thanks for coming on today. A lot to unpack here. The first thing I want to start off with is what exactly does immunity mean in this case? I know that it's wide-ranging, but what kind of immunity would Trump get if granted?
Well, that depends on what the Supreme Court tells us he gets. They're going to define this doctrine out of whole cloth. There is absolutely nothing in the United States Constitution or any writings of the Founding Fathers about immunity other than to say that you shouldn't have it because, you don't want to have a king. So the immunity doctrine itself, they will create presumably something. And the scope of that, we can only guess. So really, I don't think anybody has an answer to your question, is the answer to your question.
We've been waiting quite a while for this decision. In fact, they're taking this all the way up until the very last day before they go on their break. Why is this thing taking so long? Is that another question we don't quite know the answer to?
Well, I can hazard a guess. If they're going to create, it wouldn't be beyond the realm of possibility to create some kind of immunity doctrine. I mean, you can't have former presidents be charged by every county attorney in the United States. There's hundreds of these people. I'm sure you could find hundreds of county attorneys that would charge Joe Biden with something, regardless of substance, and for acts that he committed in office. So you've got to have some kind of assumed immunity. In this country, we've just kind of assumed it. So I could see the court creating something, but the range of that, how broad those lines are, my guess is the justices are arguing with each other. You probably have this justice is going to go with this justice, but only on part 5 of their opinion. Then they're going to concur on this, and then they'll join with this. You might get what's called a plurality decision in this case, which means 5 or more justices agree in a result, but they won't agree on the reasoning. And then you have 5 different statements of what could be the law. So my guess is on this particular case, they might be arguing this right up until the point where they push the send button to the print office of the Supreme Court to give us the opinion on Monday.
Is time of the essence? We've been seeing them releasing, decisions on a litany of issues, but not this one quite yet. Could things have been different about how this thing played out over the months ahead if they had given this decision, say, weeks, months ago?
Well, sure. If they had done it weeks and months ago, Donald Trump would not have gotten what he wanted, which was the delay. In fact, what the Supreme Court very well could have done was just not touch this issue. The D.C. Court of Appeals wrote a very clear and very well-reasoned opinion denying immunity, recognizing certain issues, et cetera, but basically denying immunity. And that opinion was a statement of the law as it existed, or let's put it this way, that opinion is a statement of law until whatever we get on Monday. So really, and frankly, is there a deadline? The deadline was actually yesterday. That deadline's been extended by the court. Presumably the court could extend it again if they all can't get together on a certain reasoning and who's going to be in the majority, dissent, concurrence, or whatnot. So, again, your guess is as good as mine.
Have we gotten any insight into how the judges will make this decision? I was reading up on this, and I read that partial immunity could be something that they come down with here. What would partial immunity look like in comparison to granting full immunity, whatever that could mean?
Well, I think there would be some form of partial immunity. If it was just a matter of defining no immunity, they would have dished out an opinion months ago, or just left the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeal opinion. So they're going to create some kind of immunity. My guess is it will have to be actions of the president within the scope of his office during the tenure of his office. And my guess also is that leading an insurrection or instigating an insurrection will not be part of that scope of immunity, but almost all other actions that a president does as being president would be immune. Now, they must, I have to assume they would create an immunity, rather not make a person immune. So let's say you're president of the United States, you're doing your official duties, and on the side, you're engaging in a wide-ranging financial fraud, or you go down and rob a Circle K or something like that. You shouldn't get immunity for that. Or as former President Trump, used to say on the campaign trail, he could shoot somebody at Fifth Avenue and not suffer any consequences. I have to believe that the Supreme Court would not grant that type of scope of immunity. But where the scope of immunity will go beyond that, again, I'm waiting anxiously for the opinion, as the rest of the nation is.
If Trump does end up regaining the presidency and this thing is still making its way through the court system, does he have the ability to dismiss this case?
Oh, yes. The president, in some ways, is the head of the executive branch. The attorney general has duties to follow the law that presidents sometimes do not like. If you recall, in Trump's first term, he fired Jeff Sessions because he allowed the Mueller investigation to go forward. Presidents generally should not do that. Richard Nixon had a great problem when he fired Archibald Cox, for instance, and independent counsels. But that doesn't mean they don't have the power to do so. So he absolutely could just end this entire investigation, and that would be that.
So, one more thing before we go here. What impact will this decision have on the future of the presidency? We talk so much about how this will affect Trump in the immediate future, but I want to ask you, because this thing's going to matter quite a bit in the future, past Trump, right, and beyond.
Well, if the court comes down with a very clear declaration that this type of immunity is narrow and only applies to exactly the president doing his duties as president, it will be a reaffirmation of democracy. If it goes beyond that, to say that the person of the president is imbued with some kind of special status in society, that's not good for democracy, nor is it the intent of the framers. I would point out that if Donald Trump gets everything he asks for, he could literally win an election against President Biden, and President Biden could order SEAL Team 6 to take him out before he assumes office. And according to Trump's arguments of immunity, President Biden would not suffer any consequences. So clearly, we can't have a country like that. And this is the court's kind of opportunity, like they did decades ago in the Nixon case, to reaffirm democracy and the fact that nobody is above the law.
All right, Robert, we'll leave it there for now. We will be watching the court early on Monday. Again, we're expecting it that day. We'll be watching with bated breath. Take care.